Hello, this is Abby from ollieholly.com. Welcome to day 2 of my 12 Days of Appliques crochet along. In today's video, I will be showing you how to crochet this cute little wreath. Here are the materials I'll be using to make my wreath. The yarn I'll be using is sheep's katona in the colors silver green and light coral. The hook I'll be using with it is a 2.75mm crochet hook. Additionally, I'll be using a tapestry needle, DMC embroidery floss in 504, an embroidery needle, some 3mm seed beads, and a pair of scissors. For the backing, I'll be using felt that matches the color of my main yarn. To glue the felt to my applique, I'm using Gorilla fabric glue. I'll also be using a sheet of paper towel and a toothpick to help with the gluing process. And finally, a sharp pair of scissors for cutting the felt. If you want to follow along with a written pattern, you'll find the full collection in my shop on December 6th. It's currently being tested, but when it's ready, I'll link it in the description box down below. You can sign up for my newsletter through the link in the description box if you want to be notified when the pattern is ready. The first thing we will be working on is the wreath itself. To set up for round 1, chain 9. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Making sure your chain is not twisted, join to the first chain to form a circle. Bring the end of the chain up to the hook. Insert your hook into the first chain, yarn over, and pull a loop up through the 2 loops on your hook to slip stitch. In round 1, chain 1, then work 14 single crochet directly into the circle itself instead of each individual chain. I'll be working the yarn under single crochet instead of the standard single crochet. Insert your hook into the circle, and just so that you don't have to weave the tail from the slip knot in, lay it over the circle and crochet around it to secure it into the back of your stitches. Going to yarn under to pull a loop up, then yarn over and pull it through the 2 loops. Continue making single crochets in the circle until you have a total of 14 stitches. After about 6 stitches, I'm going to drop the yarn tail from the slip knot and trim it to get it out of the way. Pause here to continue working single crochets into the circle until you have a total of 14 stitches. When you get to the end, slip stitch to the first single crochet. So that's this one right here. Take note to not work into the chain 1. Insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, and pull it through the stitch and the loop on your hook. In round 2, work a half double crochet increase into each stitch. To work a half double crochet increase, simply make 2 half double crochet stitches into the same stitch. To start, chain 2. For the first set of half double crochet increase, work into the same stitch the chain 2 is coming out of. So that's this stitch right here. Yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch. Yarn over, and pull a loop up. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over one more time and pull it through all 3 loops. Do this one more time into the same stitch. So yarn over, insert into the same stitch, yarn over to pull a loop up. Then yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops. Pause here to continue working 2 half double crochet stitches into each stitch. By the time you're done, you should have a total of 28 stitches. When you get to the end, slip stitch to the first stitch. Do so by locating the first stitch, inserting your hook into the top loops, then yarn over and pull it through all the loops on your hook. In the final round of the wreath, chain 1, then work 1 crab stitch into each stitch. The crab stitch, or the reverse single crochet stitch, is a stitch that's commonly used for borders, and it creates this fun, puffy texture. To do the crab stitch, you're going to have to work in the opposite direction of how you normally crochet. So for right-handed people like myself, we're used to working counterclockwise. When working the crab stitch, we'll be working clockwise. For left-handed people, it's the other way around. You're used to crocheting clockwise, but you'll be working counterclockwise. So instead of working into the first stitch, we're going to be inserting our hook into the final stitch. Take note to not work into that slip stitch, but into that final half double crochet instead. So I personally find that this first stitch is the hardest to work into. So for this, I'm going to flip my hook upside down and insert my hook side in first, then push through. Yarn over, so that means you're wrapping the working end of the yarn around the hook from the back to the front. And I wanted to note here that this is going to feel and look like a yarn under because your yarn is on the opposite side than you're used to. Pull a loop up, and you should have 2 loops on your hook, but they'll be twisted together. Yarn over 1 more time and pull it through the 2 loops on your hook. So we're just going to repeat this all the way around. So I'm inserting my hook into the next stitch, which is the stitch to my right because I'm right-handed. Then I'm yarning over to pull a loop up, yarn over 1 more time, and I'm pulling it through the 2 loops on my hook. Pause here to continue working 1 crab stitch into each stitch, and I'll meet you at the end. You should still have 28 stitches by the time you are done. Now that we've worked the crab stitch all the way around, slip stitch into the same stitch that the first crab stitch was worked out of. If you're not sure where that is, just look for the final half double crochet of the previous round. And I'm actually going to flip my piece over to the back so that it'll be easier for me to slip stitch. Cut the working end of the yarn and fasten off. Weave the tail into the back of the wreath, then cut off any excess yarn tails. For the bow, I'm going to start by making a magic circle with my light coral yarn. Chain 2. To make it easier to work into the circle, hold the circle down to give it a bit more tension. Now work 2 double crochet into the magic circle. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook into the circle, yarn over 1 more time to pull a loop up. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over 1 more time and pull it through the remaining 2 loops. So 1 more time, we're going to yarn over, insert into the circle, yarn over to pull a loop up, then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over 1 more time and pull through the remaining 2 loops. Next, we're going to chain 2. Then we're going to slip stitch into the circle. Insert your hook into the circle, yarn over, and pull your loop through the circle, then through the loop on your hook. And now I'm just going to pull the stitches a little bit closer together, just so that it looks more like one side of the ribbon. Next, we're going to work on the 2 little legs of the ribbon. To do so, chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to be working into the chain, and I personally like to work into the back bumps of the chain. So I like to flip my chain over to reveal the back bumps in the back. I'm going to start in the second bump from the hook, so that's 1 and 2. Insert my hook. Then I'm going to work a slip stitch. Continue in the remaining 3 chains. Slip stitch into the magic circle, and then we're just going to repeat what we just did another time for that second leg of the ribbon. So we're going to chain 5, and starting in the second chain from your hook, and just a reminder here, I'm going to be working into the back bumps. Work 1 slip stitch into each bump. Slip stitch into the magic circle, then we're going to work the other side of the ribbon. It's worked the exact same way as the first ribbon. Chain 2, then work 2 double crochet into the magic circle. So that's 1, and 2. Then work your chain 2. And then to make it a little bit easier to work into, I'm going to tighten up that magic circle by pulling on the yarn tail. Then I'm going to work 1 final slip stitch into that magic circle. Pull on the yarn tail from the magic circle to tighten up that circle fully. Cut the yarn tail and fasten off. Make sure to leave a really long tail, so about 6 to 7 inches. Take the yarn tail and wrap it around the center of the bow a couple times. Try to do this as tight as you can. So after a couple times, I'm going to just hold it down and pull on that tail to tighten it up. Then tie a tight double knot in the back of the bow with the tail from the magic circle. Shape the bow slightly with your fingers. And finally, we're going to sew the bow onto the wreath itself. You can position the bow towards the bottom of the wreath or on top. I like to sew it over the area where the chain was joined from round 1 of the wreath. Tie a tight double knot with the yarn tails to secure. Then trim off any excess yarn. Position the beads onto the wreath to see where you want them to be placed. To sew the seed beads onto the wreath, I'm going to be using 2 out of the 6 strands of embroidery floss. Sew your beads onto the wreath. Make sure to go through each bead at least twice to fully secure. When all the seed beads are sewn on, weave the embroidery floss through the back to be closer to the first end of the floss. Tie a tight double knot, then cut off any excess floss. Cut out a piece of felt that is slightly bigger than your applique. Apply glue to the back of the applique, then press down onto the felt. Allow the glue to dry slightly, and then you can go back to glue the sections that you've missed. And just to make sure that my bow doesn't move around too much, I'm also going to dab a little bit of glue underneath both sides of the ribbon. Let the glue dry for at least an hour before cutting it out with a sharp pair of scissors. Cutting it too early will run you the risk of getting glue all over your scissors. To cut the center of the felt, fold the wreath in half like so, then take a sharp pair of scissors to cut a hole into the center. Using a smaller pair of scissors, slowly cut out the felt. If you like this video, you might like some of my other videos too. Please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!